Hello, Book 2. This is Johnny in my main study. It is January the 23rd, 2018. It is 4 minutes after 3 o'clock in the afternoon here in West Michigan. It has been snowing, icy cold, and like I said in my last video, I'm kind of out of it. But I wanted to make a video, get some stuff off my mind. I was reading this afternoon, The Square and the Tower, Networks and Power and the Freemasons and Facebook by Niall Ferguson. So then I did doze for a while. This morning I did read some more of God's Glory and Salvation Through Judgment, Biblical Theology of James M. Hamilton Jr. This is on the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. So that's what we're going through. So it's kind of like I'm getting like a refresher course on going through the Bible. As far as my diary, I kind of ended it kind of early this afternoon in my diary because nothing to write about. So I ended on page 57 in my January 2018 diary. So I got those. Tomorrow is the 24th. Tomorrow is a Wednesday. We have 341 more days in this year. So, last night I showed you William Perkins. I mentioned that I had just ordered the volume 5 of the works of William Perkins that are being reprinted. William Perkins, let me see here. William Perkins was born in 1558 and he died in 1602. And I showed you Gregory the Great, more reflections on the Book of Job. But I didn't show you this other set that's on my study desk. I was reading these last year. I think they were printed last year. Let me see here. This was printed in, 2016. This is a translation of a commentary on the Heidelberg Catechism, which is one of the confessions of the Dutch Reformed churches. See, it said, this is the Christian's only comfort in life and death, an exposition of the Heidelberg Catechism, volumes 1 and 2 by Theodorus VanderGroe. This is a translation out of Dutch. Theodore VanderGroe was born in 1705 and died in 1784. It says here in the flap here is one of the last and most well-known representatives of the Dutch Further Reformation. He devoted 54 years of his life to faithful preaching and pastoral ministry. His numerous books convey a healthy balance of Reformed doctrine combined with a biblical form of pastoral spirituality. His sermons on the Heidelberg Catechism, published here for the first time, have long been regarded as his most important work. So these are translated out of Dutch by Bartel, Elshout, and edited by Joel R. Beeke. For those who don't know, when I was going to church, I went to churches that preached the Heidelberg Catechism and taught the Heidelberg Catechism. There were Dutch Calvinistic churches. So, and over the years, I kind of collected a library of sermons and expositions on the Heidelberg Catechism. So that's why I bought these. These come from, these are Reform Heritage books, come out of Grand Rapids. I get a lot of books. That's who's publishing these. Perkins is Reform Heritage Books. They print Dutch Puritan works and English Puritan works and other experimental Reformed literature, theology. They have their own bookstore there in Grand Rapids, and they basically sell Reformed Calvinistic literature. So I came into my study, and I just opened this to where I last read, and I can't remember when I read these. It was last year, maybe year 2016. I don't remember. So I was reading where I last was, just to give you an idea of where I was at last time. He's talking here about the preamble to the law, which was where I was at in that book on biblical theology. I was reading the same thing in this book, God's Glory and Salvation Through Judgment, Biblical Theology. Hamilton is going through the Torah, and where you have Moses giving on the Mount Sinai the Ten Commandments. And when you go through the Heidelberg Catechism, they go through the law. And it says there in Exodus 20, where you have the account of the giving of the law, it opens up, I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, etc., etc. So he says here, how does this bring down to everyday life? And the old Dutch Reformed minister says, when the Lord says to his people and children, he is the Lord their God, he therefore wants to assure them, one, that he has entered into an eternal, immutable covenant with them, in spite of their great misery through sin, embraces them as his own beloved children, being moved with pity and compassion regarding their most wretched condition. In so doing, he most securely binds himself to them in order to be their merciful God and Father. And he engaged all his omnipotence to secure the eternal salvation and redemption, eternally bestowing upon them all good things. Consider what the Lord himself is saying, quote, moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and I will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Ezekiel chapter 37, verses 26 and 27. 2. Of their acquittal and the gracious pardon of all their sins for the sake of the merits of his Son, Jesus Christ, that he is willing to engage all his power, wisdom, grace, and mercy to secure the atonement of all their sins and iniquities by fully blotting them out, cleansing and purifying their hearts of them, and granting them a perfect eternal righteousness. Yes, he assures them that he himself will be their righteousness, so that they neither need to fear nor doubt God's grace, no matter how great, grievous, and manifold their sins may be. That is, if they are but truly sorrowful regarding them, and they are desirous to have them forgiven out of grace and for Christ's sake. Again, God himself declares, but this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And I will forgive their iniquity, and I remember their sin no more. Jeremiah chapter 31, verses 33 and 34. 3. Of all the great blessing of their sanctification. As the Lord himself is infinitely holy in his nature, it necessarily follows that God could not be our God without so perfectly sanctifying us and impressing deeply and fully upon our hearts his divine image. Thereby we become a holy people in conformity to that beautiful image of our God, whereby from day to day we are renewed and transformed into the full perfection of our nature will have been achieved. Therefore the Lord is saying, "Fear not, my people, for though you find yourselves to be so very wretched and impotent and perverse and sinful, you are continually complaining and grieving that you are unable to love, serve, and fear me with your whole heart and soul. I, nevertheless, assure you that I am the Lord thy God. I will engage all my power and all sufficiency to make you completely holy in both soul and body and deliver you from all your sin. Be fully assured of this and entrust yourself entirely to me. I have already begun my work in you, and I shall not forsake the work of my hands. Rather, I shall gradually proceed with it, and there will come a time when I shall completely perfect it. I, the Lord, am holy, and therefore my will that you, my people, shall ultimately be perfectly holy into all eternity. It is therefore written, Thou mayest be a holy people unto the Lord thy God. And he has spoken. Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 19. And the heathen shall know that I, the Lord, do sanctify thee. Ezekiel 37, verse 28a. For that he will always inwardly illuminate them in their hearts by his word and spirit. He thereby teaches and instructs them so that they get to know and continue to know him as their God and the only wise God. He cures the spiritual blindness of their hearts and grants to them his spirit as the spirit of wisdom and understanding. We may indeed mourn greatly because of our blindness, and we should be greatly troubled by the fact that we know so little of God and of heavenly things. However, since the Lord is our God, we have the most excellent teacher, for he has given us his only begotten Son to be our wisdom. We must therefore be of good courage, for we have but to wait upon and trust in the Lord, for he himself is our light. He is the sun that illuminates our dark hearts, and he gradually causes all haze and cloudiness to evaporate. That sun will break through fully, and he will bring forth our light as the noonday. The entire Bible is therefore filled with comforting promises for poor believers. Consider, for instance, the great covenant promise of Jeremiah 31, 33, and 34. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days of the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. 5. Of all that great and blessed benefit of his imminent nearness and presence, in that he desires to be most intimately united to them in his Son, Christ Jesus, and also to dwell in their hearts by his Spirit. He wants to surround them and immerse them fully in his heavenly light, love, and grace, and continually cause his face to shine upon them. This is expressed in Leviticus 26, 11, and 12. And I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And I will walk among you, and be your God, and you shall be my people. 6. Powerfully of his divine love, that is, how tenderly he loves them, and how he has eternally set his heart upon them, so that in extraordinary expression of his infinite love, he has given himself to them and has delivered them from the bondage of the devil. He assures them that his inclination towards them will never diminish, but rather that his love and favor shall always pursue them. How could it be otherwise? For God is love. 1 John 4, verse 8. If this God is indeed our God, then his love is so manifested towards us, and we shall be eternal partakers thereof. It is therefore written, The Lord thy God in the midst of thee is mighty. He will save. He will rejoice over thee with joy. He will rest in his love. He will joy over thee with singing. Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 17. The Lord also promises his people, I will heal their backsliding, and I will love them freely. Hosea 14, verse 4. 7, that he always will comfort them in their sorrows, and that he will surround them with all joy and delight. For he is the God of our exceeding joy. Psalm 43, verse 4. If he is our God, everlasting joy shall be upon our heads. Isaiah 35, verse 10 following. If he is our God, then he is the God of all comfort. He then greatly comforts us. He himself accordingly, comfort ye, my people, saith our God. Speak comfortably to Jerusalem. Isaiah 40, verses 1 and 2. Consider Revelations 21, 3 and 4. They shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and their God, and be their God, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. End of quote. I could read on and on. So that's the kind of things I read in the afternoons when I'm kind of like saturated and I'm kind of just wandering the house and it's cold and snowing outside. I can just sit here and meditate upon the fact that God is my God, and that his desire is that I would know him, that I would experience his divine love, and that he will sanctify me and perfect me and bring me to a state of bliss with him in the eternal ages. So I just thought I'd share with that these are, like I said, one of the reasons why I started Book 2, mentioned good Christian books. This is a good Christian. You don't really have to be Dutch Reform or be in Heidelberg Catechism preaching, but these are good devotional books. The Christian's Only Comfort in Life and Death, Exposition of the Heidelberg Catechism, volumes 1 and 2. You can get these from Reformed Heritage Books. You can go on your website and find their address. And so I just thought I'd share these with you this afternoon, and I'll sign off until next time. Bye.